morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Marchant, and I'm the CEO of Womenetics. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our moderator, Juanita Barranco. Juanita Barranco was a purposeful woman long before Womenetics coined the phrase for our awards. She earned her BS degree and her JD degree from Louisiana State University. She moved to Atlanta and built a successful law career before becoming the Assistant Attorney General for the state of Georgia. In 1978, she decided to shift gears and become an entrepreneur when she and her husband, Gregory, co-founded the Barranco Automotive Group. The company was one of the first African-American owned car companies, dealerships in the metropolitan Atlanta area. Juanita is Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Barranco Automotive Group, which now includes Mercedes-Benz of Buckhead and Smart. And if you all are not familiar with Smart, we just got back about 2 weeks ago from a trip to Paris. Thank you very much. And they were everywhere. They have taken over the city of Paris. So I think we need to think about them taking over the city of Atlanta. Juanita is also modeling good succession planning, and several of the Barranco's grown children have joined them in the business. Her business and community activities have won her numerous awards, among which are recognition by the Dow Jones Company for entrepreneurial excellence, the first Trumpet Award from Turner Broadcasting System for entrepreneurial excellence, Entrepreneur of the Year by the Atlanta Business League, the YWCA Women of Achievement Award, and the Atlanta History Center's Defining Women in Atlanta Award. In addition to many boards that she serves on the board of home-based Atlanta's Southern Company. Please welcome one of Atlanta's original purposeful women and my good friend, Juanita Barranco.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for that wonderful introduction. And let me just start by saying good morning, entrepreneurial women and men. Welcome, welcome. And I say that because you got here at 7 o'clock in the morning, so you're entrepreneurial with that alone. But I just love Womenetics and what it has evolved into and is constantly evolving itself into. It's a great medium for women and for us to connect in Atlanta. So I know that any long remarks that I would give at this point would be counterproductive because we have 4 dynamite women that we want to hear from, and we want to give you an ample opportunity to have some Q&A and some discussion afterwards. So let me get right to my assigned task. And I will ask our panelists to come up as I introduce you. The first panelist is Kate Atwood. Kate Atwood turned her own anguish into social action by founding a nonprofit organization called Kate's Club when she was just 24 years old. Her goal was to help grieving children and adolescents find ways to cope with overwhelming sorrow. Now Kate's Club is growing, and Kate is taking on new challenges with the release of her book and her Living by Giving initiative. Kate Atwood. Our next panelist is Mary Parker. Mary Parker is president of All-in-One Security, with a reputation for offering value to the customer instead of just a service. From humble beginnings as a security officer to creating a company with over 100 employees and growing, Mary Parker knows how to make it in a male-dominated profession. Mary Parker. Helene Lawless. As president of Path Builders, Helene has led her company to an impressive 34% year-over-year growth in revenue during the economically challenging fiscal year of 2009. Helene has also led Path Builders' efforts to evolve from a small, largely entrepreneurial organization to a highly respected leader in the field of mentoring for high potential female professionals. Helene Lawless. Sort of like the lollipop is the way she, the way she told me. Our next panelist, and I've enjoyed having breakfast with you, Ms. Becky, is Becky Dowling. After 20 years of volunteer work, Rebecca Dowling recognized a gap in the system. Severely disabled people who could not bathe, feed, or dress themselves were often grouped with those who could work and function in society. She set out to change this unjust into a just people and forever, changing the lives of over 250 disabled adults in metropolitan Atlanta. Becky Dowling. Now, I'm going to start out to get everybody warmed up because I know you guys are going to just have a lot to say. I said I was going to tease you by saying, you know those questions they sent you? I got rid of all those. They have see just how entrepreneurial you really are.
Yeah, I knew that. Because the last time they didn't ask me a single question. So I brought none.
Well, I'm going to start out with one of those single questions that you did receive. And basically, each and every one of you, and as you can tell from the brief resume, they really are entrepreneurs in their own right. And in your respective industries, you've had innovative ideas. And what I'd like to ask you is, what was the driving force that led you to come up with the ideas, and how were they initially received by your peers? And we're just going to start in the order right now. After this, we'll be all over the page, but we'll start with you.
Well, in my particular case, and the question was posed, what put you on this path, I think, of innovation. I had a unique experience because Kate's Club originated from a personal loss that I had experienced when I was 12 years old. And having walked that walk without the support, I knew, as I started to shape my career, that there was a huge opportunity to build something that didn't exist for generations before. That matched with just always, having a keen interest in being an entrepreneur, liking the autonomy of starting a business. And I think, I don't know if I should admit it or not, but one of my thoughts during the process of going from sports marketing, which was my first career out of school, to starting Kate's Club was, I was young, I was fearless, and I kind of felt that now is the best time to try something, because even if it failed, it was just myself that I had to pick back up. So I think those were kind of the key components in what put me on the trajectory of starting Kate's Club.
Good morning, everyone. For me, I actually started my career in Michigan, working at General Motors in the automotive division. Early, last in, first out approach, I was affected by that. I was laid off, and I knew that I didn't want to give up the income, so I had to find something else to do, not realizing that it would ultimately change my whole career plan. And I started as a security officer. And while there, I realized so many things were missing from the security industry as a whole. And one such thing was women. There were no women in the security from a management standpoint. And I knew that if I would be there, I'd be in management. I'd be one of the leaders. And so I changed my career path. And from that of a security officer, director of security, while still in corporate America, to eventually owning my own firm. How did my peers receive that? Initially, not very well, because I had not been in military, and nor did I have a law enforcement background. And anyone running security companies or in the executive level of security had already held positions in one of those fields. So I was determined that to go from a security officer to that of a security company owner was a challenge that I was ready to embark upon. And as a result of that, it has been extremely rewarding to even play in this space today with all of those males, prior military and prior law enforcement. But security, ladies and gentlemen, is slightly different. Our approach is from prevention.
Okay.
Terrific.
Helene?
Like Mary, I made a significant change in my career about 7 or 8 years ago. My degrees are in chemical engineering, and I actually worked for an oil company called Amoco that was acquired by an oil company that really people didn't pay a lot of attention to about 86 days ago, but now there's a little more attention being drawn to that. Very long story short, I was here in Atlanta, and staying in Atlanta working for BP wasn't a long-term solution. Really needing to move to another location was in the cards for me if I stayed with BP. So very long story short, I decided to leave. I had been affected incredibly positively by being a mentee in a formal mentoring program. The gentleman who was my mentor, a gentleman named Chuck Papagiorgio, was my mentor, is still my mentor. I swapped emails with him last week, so 12 years later. I was profoundly impacted by how this gentleman really helped me from an external perspective shape my career and really put me on a path to achieve much more as a professional. And then, very long story short, the company that ran that mentoring program was having some financial trouble. And here I was, I just left BP. I had gotten to the point where I was bored and ready to do something else, and really not knowing anything about human resources, leadership development, or small business ownership, decided to buy the company. It has been my passion for the past 8 years. It is an incredible thing to get to work with individuals and really help them to shape their futures and their careers. My brother would tell you, I am a product of the Junior Achievement Program, where students learn to run companies while they are in high school. And I will never forget my brother just casually saying, well, of course, we always knew that you would do this. Might have been good if he mentioned it to me, had not. So I do think there was an element, to Juanita's point, that I think there were certainly people around me who thought I was crazy, but it's a decision I would do all over again.
And we're glad you did. Glad you did.
You know, I was in a very fortunate situation as a young mother that I got to do a lot of volunteer work. And over time, I got to really see what was needed in the community in a variety of ways. I mean, I worked with a lot of various programs, every level of the school, and I got to pick and choose what I wanted to do. But everything I did led me to disabled people. Why, I'm not real sure. There's some, history of disabled people in my family, but as I got older, and I thought, I'm in my 40s, my kids are in college, and I better figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life, because I'm going to be going through that empty nest thing. And I was working with a program with disabled people, I did Special Olympics for 20 years. And I found that they were being pooled all into one pot, that if you had a disability, you were in a disability program for disabled people, handicapped back in those days. But I found there was this population of people that looked just like you and me, that really had the ability to do a lot of things that were really cool and really fun and work, but they were being held back. And so I went to the lady of this program I was at and told her my ideas, and she was just like, you have lost your mind. And I said, well, I've heard that for 20 years, so it's no big deal. I've never lived in the box, so. She didn't like the idea, so I thought, I think I found it, at 45. I think I figured out what I want to do when I grow up. And I went to some families that I knew that had adults with disabilities and kind of brainstormed some ideas, and they said, well, when do you want to do this? And I was kind of like, oh, I really hadn't gotten that far yet. 2 weeks later, I had my first newsletter out, I had my first vehicle on the road, and I had 15 people in apartments, and I thought, oh my gosh. But I really didn't think, I've got 250 people now. I have 15 vehicles. I have 2 properties that house people worth over $10 million. And this is in less than 15 years. I don't have many friends left, just so you know. You don't want to be my friend because the first thing I'm going to ask is if you have a CDL or the ability to cook, because we like to have parties for the group. Having a strong family support system that understands you, understands your drive and your dreams really helps. I've been married 40 years to my best friend. My children, as much as they said, we're never doing that with you, Mom, I see them every day. I see all 7 of my grandchildren every day. My 6-year-old grandson will tell you he's an employee and his name is on the door of his office in my building. My 12-year-old granddaughter will tell me that when I say, honey, you need to sit and eat, she'll go, Grandma, we are working, we're feeding the group. So I don't know if the success came from me knowing how to run a business as much as my heart is in what I do. I have a hard time with the word business because I don't see it as a business. I see it as a way of life.
Let me assure you that what you do is a very well-run business, and also on behalf of all of us at Womenetics, you're not crazy.
Okay.
So thank you very much. But I want to ask, I'm going to start with Helene at this point, and I'm going to refrain from making any comments, and so are you, about BP and how you got out just in time, so we're not going to talk about that. But, you know, what I think I'd like to ask you, Helene, is tell us how it is that women are, in fact, uniquely situated, if you will, or equipped to handle this ever-growing, ever-changing society with all of the multifaceted aspects of the workplace. How are we in fact better equipped than men? And what makes us uniquely equipped for that? Would you like to tackle that one?
Sure, yeah. You know, I think the reality that exists is that, you know, when we're in a room like this, full of high-powered executive women who are looking at the future, sometimes it's hard to remember the fact that, you know, at the end of the day, 58% of high school graduates, 58% of college graduates are women, yet there are only 13 female CEOs in the Fortune 500. And there are certainly systemic things that are still in place where women aren't moving into executive level roles. On the flip side of that, the economy is changing at a pretty rapid rate. As we become more and more a knowledge economy, there was a very controversial article in the Atlantic Monthly last month that if you haven't read, you ought to take a moment to read. It's called The End of Men. I began by saying it was rather controversial, and it is. There is...
the 4 men in the room.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't write it. Okay.
Give him a cup of coffee.
But the premise is just talking about the fact that in general, when you look at fields like healthcare, when you look at fields that are very client-focused, individual-focused, really relying on people and their ability to connect and collaborate and move forward effectively, this is an area of strength for us, and it is something that I think that we need to be very cognizant of. What is it that we uniquely can contribute to the workplace? Now, that said, what has not changed about the workplace is that the first and foremost element of creating your path in your career is high performance. And it is not about not performing at the highest levels. And certainly there are attributes that we bring. But I do think that we, as women, because the workplace isn't necessarily, because the playing field isn't necessarily designed for us, we have to take on the role of being very proactive about positioning ourselves and really putting ourselves in the right situations, being very clear about clearly communicating what it is that we uniquely provide in given circumstances, but then at the end of the day, performing at the highest level right next to our male peers. So I think while there are certainly some elements where women bring unique attributes, it certainly is about being on the playing field with men, and it is not the end of men, goodness gracious. But the article is compelling anyways. You should take a few minutes to read it.
Well, why don't we just sort of follow up on that, and I'll ask some of the other panelists to chime in as well, because, I mean, that's sort of one of those issues, you know, when you mentioned the fact, and it is a fact, that we have very few female corporate CEOs. And in fact, at the risk of, you know, really offending some people, some of them have not done so well when we have gotten in that position. Yeah. So where does the responsibility lie among the women, among the corporate? You mentioned the environment, of course, is not necessarily suited for us. So what responsibility, I guess, is part of this question, do women have in making sure that they are in positions to do that? Mary, you want to jump in on that?
Yes, I would. First of all, I would like to go back to the comment Helene indicated. It's high performance. We know that in any areas we've had to work in our careers, if we were in the male-dominated space, we've always had to overperform in order to remain on that team. The other thing in today's world, because there's so much emphasis being placed on status, you've got your MBEs, you've got your WBEs, and so forth. And so many women actually use that as a means of getting in the door. That should not be. It should always be because you belong there. You are the expert at what it is you do, and you happen to be a female. Mm-hmm. But don't go into those environments proclaiming, I'm here because I'm a woman. It does not get contracts. Mm-hmm. Your performance get contracts. And the other side of that is to build deeper relationships. Women tend to be a little bit more sociable in environments where deals are being constructed. We can't overlook that. If you're there, just ensure that you're getting the greatest value for your time. And always remember that you are the expert. You're on that team because of the value you bring to that situation, and continue to build on that. Don't be afraid to say, I'm an expert at what I do, and I know that's why I'm here. The other thing that I like to discourage women from doing, and that is only pursuing subcontracting opportunities because of the female status. When you are an expert at what you do, you're bringing that value add proposition, and instead of selling yourself or soliciting as a subcontract, go as a partner. Whatever the relationship, create opportunities for yourself that you're going to bring, again, more value to that team. And it gives you greater staying power as well.
I have just a slightly different perspective that I think is an important piece of the conversation. And I, a few weeks ago, and I will give a shout out to my Girl Scout Camp CEO buddies, but I had a great experience a few weeks ago to be a part of this program, which was an inaugural program for the Girl Scouts, and they paired executive women with teen girls. And I kind of was a little bit on the fray of both. They couldn't really tell if I was a camper or if I was a CEO. But, no.
Remind me not to go on this Girl Scout trip.
No. I was, but what I did see, which I took away as a great point of optimism around that space of female leaders is, you know, these women, what I learned from them was that a lot of them had male mentors, and a lot of them met with success because they were mentored by males, and that was kind of how the path that they followed. And I kind of sat back, and I'm from a generation that I actually have all female mentors. And so I think to that point, to the point in the room of, of the different generations in the workspace, and, as women who have met with success, reach out and usher those younger women into your fold, and the younger gals definitely look to other women in your industry and in your company to help you, because I think that that's a big shift that I've seen for me and for my generation, that I have role models, and I have women who are at the top of their game and are at the top of the food chain, and they are welcoming me into their fold, which is very, very valuable.
Kate, since you've got the microphone, let me get into this issue of passion. We heard Becky talking about it, and you can see it in all four of the panelists that there's an element of passion that went into their decision to go into their respective entrepreneurial pursuits. But how does that play? I mean, you started out at 24. You obviously were young, enthusiastic, energetic, passionate, and you still are since they're mistaking you for a Girl Scout. But how does that translate into leadership is one piece of this question. And also, secondarily, if you knew then what you know now, how would that have changed to what you decided to do?
I certainly would have done some things differently, but for me, starting Kate's Club and starting it so young, I think I had to rely more on passion and perseverance than expertise. I mean, I was a total rookie. I mean, I was out here, I was starting this. Most of my peers were going back to school and learning from textbooks, and I was just learning from a hands-on experience. And luckily, and really Kate's Club today is a product of the people that surrounded it, that nurtured me as a leader, that nurtured the organization. So the passion, I think, was what people kind of, it's very attractive. People want to be a part of something that's exciting, that's new, and especially in my peer group, I think people want to be a part of something well, I think all of us want to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves, that's making a difference and carrying an impact, and we're seeing that trend carry. So passion for me pretty much, I think, got Kate's Club off of the ground, and then, other people kind of came in and kind of ushered the dream to the reality it is today. So I also was just driven by a passion from, looking for a reason, a rationale of losing my mom when I was 12 years old. I mean, when you're 12 years old and your mom dies, you kind of look around and you're kind of like, okay, I only know two people who this has happened to, Snow White and Cinderella, and they really can't help me right now. So for me, it was also that passion and that connection to my altruistic core that this had to happen and that these kids needed this. And even if we live in a culture where grief isn't necessarily a table conversation or isn't a billboard that we pass, it's not really a hot, buzzworthy cause, it's absolutely necessary. And Atlanta has 40,000 children out there who are walking that walk. And Kate's Club is today, and I'm way beyond one person, Kate's Club today is really that passion in our community to make sure that these kids develop and thrive in their life in spite of that grief. So I think to some degree, every entrepreneur has to have passion, because there are going to be a lot of days where you want to throw in the towel. So.
Thank you very much. Mary, I want to spend a minute with you on leadership. And obviously you worked your way into it. Tell us how you did that and how you balanced sort of traditional male leadership styles with feminine leadership styles, and which dominated, and how did you just get that balance so that you can be a successful woman leader?
Well, it wasn't very easy, because the environment I was in was, again, with primarily males with prior military and law enforcement backgrounds. These guys were hard. They were so hardcore. And not having other women to bounce these things off, I really didn't know what to do. But I had to become a change agent. That wasn't my lifestyle. That wasn't my demeanor. I'm very gentle. And I wanted to bring the femininity. I didn't want to be a police officer wearing pants all the time and, black suits and all of that. And primarily when I'd go out to places, I'd brighten myself up. But from a leadership standpoint, I realized that I had to learn to do it their way. You remember the saying that your mom told you, if you can't beat them, join them. So I learned that. I learned to join them in their thinking and in the ways and their work ethics and the camaraderie that they had from, team play. I learned that from them. but I also brought in the feminine standpoint. I was a lady there. The language, the locker room talk, I didn't partake in that. So I had to bring my culture into their environment. And it was accepted. Sometimes the guys would use the locker room language and they'd go, oh no, we can't do that, Mary is here. And I appreciated that. So I had to change the standards. And going back to the leadership, one of the things that I knew that I brought was nurturing and that passion as well as compassion. They didn't necessarily understand that. Women within our organization, they were mothers. Children get sick. I was a single parent. I understood that. I understood that if I had a sick kid and I'm up till 4 o'clock in the morning, I needed to have some flexibility. So I brought that into the industry as well. It's helping, I was able to help my counterparts now understand that it's not just about being here on post at 6:15 every morning. You've got to let up some, be a little bit more flexible. Even flexing our days off, even changing our schedules from working consistently from 6 till 3 and missing all of the activities of the children to maybe sharing time with some of the others. So it was a lot of things that being a woman, being a security person, that I was able to bring to my leadership, and certainly within my organization. I allow the team to make those decisions which will work best for both our internal clients, which are the employees, and our external clients.
Well, I think it's a true statement that women really are changing work environments.
That's correct.
Where we go every day. Becky?
I finally have a business answer.
Well, that's one of your questions.
But it
What
touches
tools
on
do you
what you
think?
were saying.
What tools do you think would be beneficial from what you've learned in your business, in the larger business world?
Well, from a business standpoint, I agree with what she said. What I see, I have a very strong retention rate. I have employees that have been with me from the first day. In fact, it's very rare for anybody to ever resign. Now, that doesn't mean they're not asked to leave, but very, very few ever leave. And it's because, as a parent, I felt the same thing. I really had never had a job that I had to be anywhere at a certain time and had to stay there till a certain time. So when I developed work schedules or plans or figured out what I needed for employees, and I have 62 employees, and I had to bring in the fact that I'm not going to miss what's going on with my kids, so I need to be flexible and look at what they need. So when I hire somebody, I don't say, I might say this is the type of person I need and this is what I need that person to do. But you look at what I need and you tell me what you need and we'll merge the two. I opened a free daycare to my employees that's in my office. But it's great because they can come visit their kids throughout the day. They can go, if it's their birthday, they can go in there and bring a cake and be there. I find they're happier. They're not having problems at home. So that worked. Then insurance is such a horrible thing for small businesses. So you really have to spend a lot of time researching the benefits you need to make your employees happy. Because, I've done a wonderful job with my program, but I have all these bodies that help me. I didn't do anything alone. The first couple months I might have been driving my van and doing all my own typing. But as time has gone on, I've added people, and if they don't do a good job and they're not happy and they're having problems, you're not successful. Because when it's all said and done at the end of the day, they don't say, Lisa didn't do a good job. I go, what the hell was Becky doing? Sorry. So
that's
when
that
you're
locker
building a
room
business,
conversation.
Right, yeah.
We didn't
I
hear
have
Mary
fallen
give that
into
speech.
that.
I know I didn't hear it. I was thinking, oh, God.
But you have to make, if the people, and in our field, in the field I'm in, there's no money to come into this type of service. And so you have to make as many things attractive to people to get quality people. because I'm also very picky. My human resource person, the first thing he'll tell new people is don't ever try to keep up with Becky because it's not going to happen. And the more you try, the more aggravated she's going to get at you. Everybody has to train with me. They have to spend time with me. You have to know the people that work for you. They're representing you and your company, and they make it a success. All you can do is kind of govern what you're doing. So that's a big piece that I found over time that has made me, that at the beginning I knew nothing about. I just figured, well, I'm paying you. But that's not how it works. Everybody doesn't want just a paycheck. So, and I'm also different in the women's thing. I had a very strong mother. I've never believed that women aren't stronger than men. I feel like we are the doers. There might be a man up here, but there's 20 women doing his job. So, you know, and my husband was in corporate America in a very high position, but he had 200 women that did his job. So he didn't fool me with, you know, I did this. You didn't do anything. You know, so that probably played a big role in what made me realize how strong women are. And my daughters are very, very strong women. And so I think this is a great generation of women coming out. You have more opportunities than people like myself. And, you know, even my mother's, she was strong and had a lot of ability, but the opportunity wasn't there for women her age. Very little for me. But for you all, I mean, the sky is really the limit, but you got to look at a lot of things. Employees are the biggest key. If you
Becky,
don't have good people, you're not going to survive.
The way I like to put that about the men is, I've been to the mountain. They're not that smart.
No. And they want to talk about everything. They don't want to do it. They want to talk about it forever.
Good point. But you know, you've raised, I think, an extremely interesting point on this retention under female managers. And I don't have any facts or statistics on this, but anecdotally, and my experience tells me that women do have a lower, women managers tend to have a lower turnover rate. Anybody kind of just raise your hand if you think that might be true? Yeah, that's interesting. And because, you know, turnover is very costly. So there's your business case scenario for having women managers. I'm going to throw that out. Helene, I want to talk to you a little bit about the transition. Obviously, you are an engineer by training, and you've shared some of this with us, but tell us about some of the actual tools that you used in making that transition from being in corporate America into your consulting business that has just done extremely well. But what were some of the key factors, along Becky's line? Or give us some hard and fact, things that you actually did to make that transition.
Sure. I feel that being in a very large corporate organization for the first 12 or 13 years of my career was tremendous preparation for what I do today. I mean, being in a large organization with a great opportunity to work cross-functionally and to experience lots of different roles and leadership opportunities, clearly a tremendous amount of career growth. And I think being in a large organization where you have that opportunity to be in product development and marketing and mergers and acquisitions and really moving through really is great training to be an entrepreneur. I recognize that I pull from things on a regular basis. And I also recognize, given the fact that our clients are typically very large organizations, that I completely understand the reality of their organization from having been in a large organization. My staff would probably tell you that it's easy for them to remember that I am an engineer by degree. There is nothing that I can't put in a 2x2 matrix and start to compare and draft and map out to really look at. For a business our size, we probably have far more detailed financial analyses and cash flow projections than your average business. So I think there is that, but I just joked with a group yesterday. I was doing a workshop with one of our clients on personal brand, and I was introduced and they talked about me being an engineer by background, and you could tell that the whole room was a little bit like, really? So why would she be here to talk to us about an issue like personal brand? And I think I'm able to meet people where they are because I have enough healthy cynicism about some of the things that we as individuals need to focus on from our career, that it allows us. One of the things people say about Path Builders is that we're very focused on straight talk about your career, and that being external, we really are able to say some things inside your organizations that you all can't say yourselves. And so I look at a lot of, whether it is training, whether it is perspective, whether it is background, I see all of that really building to the point where it's very natural for me to be able to build a consulting organization and to consult myself. Much like Becky, the question was me and my transition. I mean, the reality is it's about the team and building the team that does that on a daily basis. But I will tell you that we are a group of individuals that really grew up in different industries, different functions, and now are translating that to the soft skill learning that can be there based upon our own experiences.
Good. I want to ask Kate a question now. You've been quoted as having said that the difference, yeah, I know, it's scary. What, did I say that? Yeah. That the difference between ordinary people and extraordinary people are that extraordinary people ask for help. Now, sometimes, in a room full of folk, women won't stand up and ask questions, or in the corporate setting, people won't stand up and ask for help. How did you get the nerve to ask for help, or do you, obviously you're an extraordinary person, so obviously you did ask for help at some point. So how did you find it, and to whom did you ask for that help?
Yeah, well, first of all, I wish I could take credit for that quote, but that was actually said by a very successful former CEO of UPS. But what I love about that quote is I do think if everybody sat here and they thought, I sit where I am today because I did this all alone. I did it all by myself. I mean, can anybody in this room say that they are where they are today because they did everything by themselves? It's so crucial to be able to expose your vulnerabilities, to understand your weaknesses as much as you understand your strengths, and then again, to surround yourself with the people that can help you achieve your success. I mean, in my case, because I was on such a steep learning curve, I mean, to start a business, to start a nonprofit, nonetheless, so early in my career, it was a great, thrilling experience, but I was on a very, very steep learning curve, and there was no way that I would have been able to keep my head above water if I didn't rely on other people and other people's skill set. So I think in my particular case, asking for help is something that I wasn't comfortable doing. One of the effects of losing a parent early in your life is you tend to charge ahead, and you tend to want everybody around you to think that you can handle it and that you're okay. And I certainly followed that model in my life for many, many years. So in some respect, going through the exercise, kind of putting it more in a business framework, going through that exercise of having to rely on other people and getting to know that other people are out there and that will help me in my personal life too, to be able to nurture those relationships. So I always tell people, I mean, all the most successful people in the world, get where they are because they have a solid team around them. So it's a good thing to ask for help.
Good, great answer. Now I'm going to ask each of the panelists, and I'm going to start with you, Becky. This recession has sort of been big, bad, ugly, broad, deep, long, any word you can think of. How have you managed to survive? That's the question for each panelist.
We talk about that a lot. I'm fortunate, or just people is fortunate in the fact that we have not really seen the impact that everybody's talking about. My people are mentally challenged. They're not going to be cured. So the need for our service is not going to stop. In fact, we're taking in parents now who've had breakdowns. So we haven't seen the financial impact yet. We have for some of our families that maybe you would consider them wealthy families that have made some poor business decisions. The economy has impacted them, which has impacted our consumer to the point where they can't do as many activities. But as far as I'm hiring, I hired 3 people this month. I mean, I'm hiring almost every month, and that's been going on for almost a year. So we haven't seen, we've seen it a completely different way. We see a greater need for our service now than previous. So it hasn't really
well, that's good.
impacted us. But the other problem you run into is you got a lot of people out there looking for jobs. And so coming in, giving you great sales pitches. And we've made a lot of mistakes in the last few months because they come in and tell you their story, and you want to help them as well as, because that's what I do. I help people. So I want to help this person needing a job. I'm getting comments like, oh, well, that's only $70 a week less than I'm getting from unemployment. So, no, I don't think I'll take it. What? And so we're having to be a little more careful in our interviewing process because of the people that are out there looking for a job. But we've been we've been okay. I've moved in from a 10,000 square foot day program office space to 22,000 just a few months ago, and purchased another bus.
So you're operating a recession-proof business.
It's really been, it's kind of scary because I think, okay, something's got to happen,
Right.
but service business, people still are going to have bugs. They're still going to need pest control people, security people. If anything, they need you even more now. I'm getting ready to hire a security person. I got to talk to you because I need an overnight guy. So, service businesses, if what you go into is service related, I don't think they're feeling it to some degree because maybe you don't need the house cleaned twice a month now or every other week, so you're changing a little. But I don't see where service businesses are going to be hurt as much as they're saying. And so if you're going to start a program or a business, it might be that in a service field would be the way to go.
And I understand the funeral home business is bustling.
Yes. Well, and therapeutic-wise, a lot of therapists are doing well right now. So,
Helene, how have you managed to make it through the recession?
I think we've been very fortunate, and I think it's really 2 key reasons. One, we are incredibly fortunate. Our company's been in existence for 15 years, and we have an incredibly loyal client base of organizations that get it, that this economy is not a time to not invest in your people, recognizing that as the economy turns around, your top talent, if you're not focusing on them now and developing those high potential folks, they are going to be remembering as the economy turns around and jobs open up. So an awful lot of our clients, we manage some large-scale external mentoring programs where we match women with mentors from other companies, and we've been very fortunate to work with clients who really do get it and who recognize that that investment has to continue regardless of the economic conditions. The other thing I will tell you, however, though, it's about meeting your clients where they are and recognizing what their needs are. And as this economy changes, we have really grown another side of our business around really custom programming, custom mentoring programs going inside organizations and providing for them what it is that they need. I will tell you, we are seeing a lot of organizations see the need to pull content, pull operations into their organization and do some custom work for their people. And it's about building the right team and having the right people together so that you really can deliver to meet those client needs. But it's about you recognizing that you've got to follow that pulse and meet them where they are, as opposed to coming up with the latest, greatest thing and hoping that it sells in a tough economy.
Great answer.
Great.
Mary?
And likewise, I agree with what both of you have said already. And I'd like to add to that, our company is definitely one of those service providers where in recessions, emergency states, it increases the opportunities for our company. 2008, our company grew 157%. Last year, 2009, we grew nearly 200%. And as of yesterday's meeting, we're tracking at 300% growth this year. Why is that? Customer service. We're customizing our programs. We're looking for more value add propositions to the clients we already are servicing. The resource pool is far greater. More people are laid off. So we are able to get greater talents. In addition to that, we've extended our services. We've added on additional services that just automatically complements what we're doing. And while we're there with that client, we're able to give them more than what we were offering before. We've also looked at tools that make our service offerings better. We've got to do it better now. And as Helene stated, that client retention is just as importantly as your employee retention. I'm at 0% turnover with my management staff. Very, very crucial. Once you invest all of that time and energy into developing a team to do it the way that your clients and employees want it done, you don't want to lose any of those. So this is a great time. I'm making it not impossible, but very difficult for them to leave what they already have to go out and take a chance on getting something equivalent to that.
Excellent, excellent. Kate, how are you faring?
Yes, well, I'm going to kind of answer that in just two different prongs. On the Kate's Club side, I mean, Mary, Rebecca may be pretty unique. I think the recession has definitely hit the nonprofit industry, and it's really starting to affect us this year. I think we're seeing that. Kate's Club is in a unique situation where we're really at the tipping point of our growth. We've just completed our second 5-year strategic plan. We have a new, very talented, very energetic executive director that we're really excited about. And our growth is through the roof in the number of kids, because we've gotten to a point where our awareness is at a heightened level. So we're kind of juggling that. You know, we want to serve more kids. We realize that the resources to do so are limited, but that just makes you really smart when you're doing your strategic plan. So in some ways, we were kind of at a good point to say, let's look at this and look at the direction we want to go based on the environment that we're setting out to work in. So in that respect, I think nonprofit, for-profit, you know, any recession, any time of change is a good time to kind of look inside your business structure, look at, you know, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and as you see, I mean, it can become very efficient, hopefully not at the cost of too many of your staff and employees. The Kate Atwood answer, the entrepreneurial answer for me is this is, you know, prime season. I mean, this is a great opportunity for creativity and for new things to emerge. And I'm certainly, for me personally, really excited because it's a good time for me to kind of reach my next dream.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Can I just comment on that, though? You are right, and I should have thought of that as well. Because we are a nonprofit as well. That would be the one area I have seen some change, is we're not getting the donations that we were used to, and we're having to become a little more creative with forms of fundraising. So from that standpoint, and I'm in a nonprofit organization in Gwinnett County where we talk about that, and that is the one thing that we have seen as a nonprofit, is that people aren't donating money. And you're really having to be creative when you present your need to make sure that they really understand it in order to get some of the donations and the funds that you need for your special projects.
Mary.
There's also another point I would like to indicate as well during these times. This is the time, unlike before, that you take your resources and go out and partner more. Be purposeful on new markets. Think outside of the box. Start doing things that you never thought you would do. One such example, we decided to do traffic control solutions. We were already on the sites providing security, and there were traffic control needs. And so we didn't know how to do that. We went and got a partner. We have a strategic alliance partner there. So open up your resources and began looking for other opportunities through those partnering and in order to grow your company or keep it at some level of stability. This is a great time for that.
My sense tells me also that it's time to open up, because I promised that I would open it up for a little bit of Q&A, because we really want you to have some opportunity, because this is a dynamite panel. Let's stop and give them a round of applause. Okay, who's going to be first? Any questions, comments?
Sure. My staff, I have a staff of 14. 8 are women, 9 including myself. And we have 60% females on our security officer force, and only 2% of females working on the traffic control.
When clients first, when you get a new client, and they see that you have all these women in security, is there a sort of a reaction? Oh my, do you get a negative reaction in any way?
We used to get that, but we've proven that women have been far more consistently receiving accolades in terms of the services they're providing. And remember, this is a service industry, customer service. We're delivering customer service. Who does it better than women?
All right, Mary, while I've got you on the spot, give us a really good example of where a woman was in a situation, bank robbery or something, and she was the hero.
Well, it certainly won't be the level of bank robbery, but at the airport, those of you who are traveling in and out of the airport, all those lime green shirts you see on the parking lot, that's all-in-one security. We did have a lady traveling from Honduras, and she lost all of her personal items, I think her laptop computer and her bag. And one of the guys actually found the bag, took it into the security office, and left it to be listed among lost and found. That wasn't procedure. The female, however, came and said, you know, this lady's ID could be in here. She might be traveling and can't get back home. Went through the bag with someone else there, discovered the lady's passport, driver's license, and everything that she needed in order to board that plane. Plus, it was $500 cash. And the lady received all of her contents, including the cash. And we received a letter from her with that accommodation. And this individual also just recently was recognized by the airport's general manager, Ben DaCosta, as having gone far and over the call of duty to ensure that the customer service was provided in that case.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do if somebody took my pocketbook.
No one took it. She dropped it.
She dropped it?
Yeah, she had it
Okay.
on one of the carts.
Or if I lost it,
and
yeah.
it fell off.
So, great example. I'm glad I was able to put you on the spot there. Any other comments from the audience, questions? The question is, what suggestions do the panelists, primarily I think Kate and Helene, because they talked about mentorship, what suggestions do you have for small entrepreneurs in finding mentorship opportunities for their employees?
Yeah, I mean, you know, always be careful with a microphone on me asking a question about mentoring. It is certainly something I'm extremely passionate about. I am a huge advocate, actually. So yes, we do manage formal mentoring programs, but I am a huge advocate of all of us finding mentors all around us, inside our organizations, outside of our organizations, you know, in community connections. To me, the how to find is to really be very thoughtful about identifying people that you think can support you or help you in given areas. Our philosophy of Path Builders is that a mentor is anyone who has had an experience different than your own, where that experience can help you to grow. So it's not necessarily about a title or a position, it's about finding those people who've had experiences that can be powerful to you. I will also tell you, however, just walking up to someone and saying, "Will you be my mentor?" is a little bit overwhelming for most people. Being someone's mentor is something that we all define in different ways. So what we are actually big advocates of, and you should reach out to people in the community to tap into their expertise, but it's about contemplating what can you bring to that relationship, identifying what is it that specifically you really would like to talk with that individual about, and then inviting that person to breakfast or lunch, having a conversation, being thoughtful, and if it goes well, saying, "This has been really helpful for me, I hope it's been helpful for you, would you be willing to meet again?" And perhaps we could get together periodically and have these conversations. That is not to say I don't also see value in other mentoring experiences. Mary and I would probably also tell you, both being entrepreneurs, there are some phenomenal organizations that help you from a mentoring perspective. We're both in Vistage groups. Vistage is an organization for CEOs. But it is about identifying those individuals and then being really thoughtful, but really kind of easing into it.
Great answer. Kate, did you want to?
I mean, I think that's, I think the only thing I could add is maybe the more organic approach where you're here, you're in this room filled with people. Mentorship is like any relationship. It's about chemistry, it's about interests, it's about how you connect. So going back to the extent of asking for help, reaching out to people and meeting with them, and then, just being comfortable with, that is a person you are going to have to expose your vulnerabilities with. You're going to have to expose your areas that you need help with, so making sure that you're comfortable and confident in doing that. And you may sit down with a dozen people before you feel like you really connect with somebody. And I love what Helene said about, always thinking, this is a give and take. How can I, bring something to the table? A lot of times I'm like, I don't really think I bring anything to the table. But, people want to help. They really, really do. And I think start with somebody in your industry, networking and stuff like that. And then, of course, Helene has wonderful resources and a business around it. So,
what are some of the things we do incorrectly so that people that might cause people not to take us seriously? If you don't mind me adding that.
First of all, I think in those environments, the first thing you want to do is listen. And, women, we have a tendency to give a lot of unsolicited advice. They don't want to hear that. Just listen and find your place. And again, you don't want to do anything that's going to cause them to offend them. Secondly, and thirdly, when you do begin to speak with authority, speak with knowledge, and ask questions, and also understand current events, know something about sports, and talk about family. Then if you finally get the chance, you talk about money. But the way you get there is simply by listening. And that is my best advice when you're entering into a male-dominated area. In my case, almost all of my meetings, I'm the only female there. And I listen to all the things that they have to say before I open my mouth. And then I know what to talk about.
Great answer. Helene?
I will just add to Mary's comments, I guess. I'm going to go back to where I started. Number one is performing. Number one is making sure that you are equally suited to be in the position to do the work and to perform on a daily basis. But then it is being at the table, and I mean that both literally and figuratively. When you enter a room, make sure that you recognize that you are just as much a part of that room as anyone else in that room. Far too often as women, I have seen us enter situations and think that the table's for somebody else to sit at. And we sit in a seat along the wall. And if you are invited to the room, you are in the room, you sit at the table. You take advantage of those opportunities to have the right conversations with people. I also think, however, though, there is an element of being willing to take on roles that you might not have considered. We've done a lot of research in looking at the various individuals who have been mentors in all of our programs, and our mentors are both men and women. And when we do analysis of those folks, these are all extremely successful individuals. I will tell you that the women are in twice as many functional areas as men. If you look at the scope of their careers, they will have worked in twice as many functional areas as their male counterparts have. To Mary's earlier point, perhaps because we have to still demonstrate our ability to be effective in a variety of environments, but whatever that case, I'm one of these people that is not angry at all about that. It is know the playing field, recognize what the playing field is, and be willing to take those different roles and do those different things to demonstrate effectively what it is that you're good at. And then I will just also agree with Mary. If you walk into a room and the thing being discussed is the score of the All-Star game last night, don't think the meeting hasn't begun. The meeting's begun. You're just not a part of it if you're not in the conversation.
Absolutely.
My husband actually had a role for a period of time where he was calling on a manufacturing facility, and it was incredibly important that he knows something about NASCAR. We are not NASCAR people, but I will tell you, it just became our life that on Sunday night, we stayed up till 11:35. He saw the footage of the wreck. Because there's always one, right? so that on Monday morning, so I mean, in some respects, it's not only a gender play. The reality is know the conversation of the room, be adept at the conversation of the room. Now, in that particular case, if all else fails, you can really just try the, how about that rec? Yeah. 9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10, there's going to have been a row. We're going to have to come to a close out of respect. Now it's really getting good. Earlier, Elizabeth and I were having a conversation about where we are in our lives, and I said to her, I said, well, you know, who made us general managers of the world? And so, you know, along the lines that many of you talked about, we tend to take on as women too many responsibilities for too many things, and task managers, as you mentioned, Helene, that we have twice as many, if you look at the resume, twice as many functional areas for women. So in 30 seconds, each of you tell us, how do we balance? How do we not become general managers of the world? Mary, I'm going to start with you.
I'm not there yet. However, I'm working on it. For so many years, I just worked. But now I'm starting to play some. And in doing so, I've become more refreshed and more creative. So we've got to learn to take some time for ourselves and understanding that saying no is not a rejection.
Great. Kate?
I actually want to be general manager of the world. So.
It's an age thing.
That'll pass.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, still feel that I'm very early in my career, early in my life. I still have a lot of both personal and professional experiences and goals. So, I don't even really know how to begin to answer that question. I just try to wake up every day and feel challenged and go to bed every night and feel some sense of accomplishment. So just day by day, I think, is my approach.
Helene, and I'm going to let Becky be last.
Great.
I mean, always tough to ask entrepreneurs about balance, I think. But for me, there's a new buzzword in the industry, work-life integration as opposed to work-life balance. And I think that is it for me. It is finding, I'm extremely involved in an awful lot of community things, but it's about finding those things where my work and my passions and my family and my community work intersect, so that I'm really having more personal impact because I've brought those elements together to put my time there.
Great. Becky?
Okay. Well, I think balance is one of the keys. I don't do that very well. My work takes over most of my life. But prioritizing your family, your goals, your dreams, the things you believe in, the things that you want. And if it ends up that you're in charge of the world, that's the way it is. I'm in charge of the world that I'm in right now, and I'm happy and balanced, and you can be too. So, my father said a 5-mile radius is your world. To make a difference in 5 miles, and if every person in this room did that, that's right, we would be all in control of the world, and it would be a great place to live. And so that's my goal, is to stay within my 5 miles and be happy with that, even though I'm in 40 miles. I'm working to bring it back down to 5.
That's great. Those were all fantastic answers. You did not know that question was coming. Thank you all for being here. Thank this wonderful, diverse, and I mean that word in every sense of the word. You all were fabulous.